Hello guys, how are you? I'm the Acca tutor, and in this video I'm going to take you through the three questions which you identified as most troublesome. Okay, so let's start with question number 6. As you can see on the screen, which of the following will not be the immediate purpose of a tax measure by the government? When we are looking at tax measures, we are looking at those initiatives the government may take in order to address the economy. Okay, so uh, these should be um, termed fiscal measures in the tax atmosphere. We call them fiscal measures. Okay, so you were given four choices and you were only supposed to pick that measure which is not an immediate purpose of the tax regime. So let's start with the one at the top: to protect a domestic industry from foreign competition. This one is actually a measure which the government can take to ensure that the local industries are protected. So, in the text sense, we are saying that um, the government might say uh, increase the income tax rate so that I mean, the income tax rate payable by foreign companies. Okay, if you are a foreign company, you might be then required to pay extra tax, which might discourage you to operate in the country. So the government might take that measure in order to ensure that the domestic companies survive. You know, domestic companies, they usually have more interest for the domestic economy than external or foreign companies. So the government might want to protect the domestic industry, or sometimes these foreign companies might be required to pay uh, certain surcharges, certain taxes on top of the ordinary taxes. So the government might take that one as a measure. But in this case now, in this case, that's not the answer to the question, because the question wants us to identify that measure which is not an immediate purpose of the tax regime. All right. So although the first choice there is actually uh, a measure, a tax measure a government might take, is that's not the choice, that's not the answer to the question, because in the examination you need to pay attention to the question's requirement. Okay, the second choice, um, which is shown on the screen: to price certain products so as to take into account their social cost. This one again is an immediate uh, purpose of the tax regime, or of the tax measures a government might take. Sometimes they might decide to say, okay, fine, the VAT, for example, the value added tax on a certain product should be this much. Uh, this might be to control the consumption of that particular product. For example, alcohol. Alcohol might be something that uh, has got um, some tax implications, okay, and this would trigger its price. For example, if the government charges tax on alcohol consumption, okay, on alcohol, it means that the product is going to be expensive a bit, so that we discourage its consumption. Okay, so that's the purpose of the tax regime, but that's not the answer. Then the third choice you can see on the screen is to discourage an activity regarded as socially undesirable. Yes, the government uh, might as well impose a tax so that we discourage a certain activity. Okay, for example, operating, you know, operating a beer hall might as well trigger certain tax implications. So the government might not want people to, spend most of their time in beer halls. All right, so it will impose certain taxes in that area. All right. Um, the last choice there is to influence interest rates. This one now is more economical. Uh, your understanding of macroeconomics. Now, when we talk of fiscal measures, these ones um, are not specifically targeted to impact monetary measures or the monetary economy. Okay? All right. When we talk of monetary measures, we are looking at those measures or policies which are referred to as monetary policies. So, fiscal measures do not have an immediate purpose of controlling the monetary economy. That's not the purpose. Although in the long term, the tax regime would have some impact, but those ones are secondary implications, not immediate. So when you talk of interest rates, we are only referring to the monetary policies. Are we together? We are not specifically referring to the fiscal policy. Okay, in the long term, that's when we'll be having, when we impose higher taxes, by the end of the day, in the longer term, we are going to have higher interest rates looming. Okay, excuse me. So that's the answer there was to influence interest rates. That's not the immediate purpose of the tax regime. Now let's go to question number 7. Which of the following government aims might be um, achieved by means of fiscal policy? And I've explained that the fiscal policy is related to the tax regime. Okay, which of the following government aims might be achieved by means of fiscal policy? Number 1, a redistribution of income between firms and household. That one, as you can see, taxation is imposed by the government to facilitate the redistribution of income between firms and households. But how does that happen? That's the important question we need to answer. How does that happen? Okay, now there are two important tax types you need to know. Okay, there are two types of taxation you need to know. There is progressive taxation and regressive taxation. An example of progressive tax is payee. This progressive tax is tax that is levied on income. Right? The more you earn, usually the more you have to pay. Okay, so you pay as you earn. That's payee. All right, those individuals who earn more usually pay more taxes. All right, the idea there is that we need to reduce the income inequality or the gap between the rich and the poor. All right, so you can see that by so doing, by levying a higher tax on higher income earners, we are redistributing wealth. We are redistributing wealth, or we are reducing the income inequality between those who earn more and those who are poor. Are we together? So you can see that choice or statement number 1 is correct. Okay, 1 is correct. Let us look at 2. But before we go to 2, let me explain what is regressive taxation. Regressive taxation has a tendency of making the poor poorer. Okay? Regressive taxation has a tendency of making the poor poorer. For example, uh, if we simply charge a constant tax, all right, or a fixed tax, uh, not really a fixed tax, but a proportional tax. For example, if we simply say that uh, people have to pay 10% tax on the consumption of a certain good, it means that if we if somebody has got let's say $10 in his pocket, all right, and a product is going to be charged 10% on cost or on its cost as its let's say VAT or value added tax, the 10% would be 10% of the product. Let's say the product costed $5, all right, and the VAT on the product is 10%. It means that everyone who is going to buy this product is going to buy the product at $5 5 cents. Okay, because 5 cents is the percentage. Okay, is the 10% of $5, right? So the product's cost plus VAT will become $5 5 cents. So if somebody is earning more, for example, he's earning $10, it means that when they purchase that product, they are going to pay a tax of 5 cents. All right, so their income has been reduced by only 5 cents. But if somebody is earning, let's say they earn $6, it means that although they will be paying 5 cents, all right, or although they will be paying $5 5 cents, all right, if you then compute the percentages of income loss for these two people, all right, if we say $5 5 cents, all right, divided by $6, which was the original income of the person who is poorer, and $5 5 cents divided by the $10, which was the original excuse me, the original income of the person who is richer, you can see that the percentage loss to the person who has got more money, is far much less than the percentage loss to the person who had uh, some, some small money. Okay, so regressive taxation has a tendency of making the poorer, or the poor poorer. Okay, that's the idea behind this taxation. So when the question says, which of the following government aims might be achieved by means of fiscal policy, we are simply saying the government might make use of these taxation techniques to ensure that they moderate the economy, all right, they moderate the redistribution of wealth, all right. So the amount of VAT they are going to levy, they would be considering the potential impacts, how much poorer the total economy might become, or how much richer the total economy might become by the end of the day. If we are looking on the other side of progressive taxation, we then have to ask ourselves, how much poorer do we want our rich people to be? Okay, because we need to then ask ourselves, how much percentage shall we then have to levy on their income? Sometimes if the tax rate becomes too high, it means that the the poorer might be offended, and then they might leave the country and go elsewhere. So the government is actually caught between deciding which particular rate should they have to levy. However, for the purpose of answering our question, we can see that taxation has got a role to play in the redistribution of wealth or incomes. Then there was a second statement there, a reduction in aggregate monetary demand. Yes, the more the tax you are going to be levied on your income or on your salary, it means that if they increase the tax, you are going to receive less dollars, and therefore the aggregate demand in the economy, if the tax rate is increased, it means that the aggregate demand is going to be low. The aggregate demand for money is going to be low. Why? Because by the end of the day, people would no longer need any money because they don't have any money in their accounts. So at the end of the day, the demand for money is going to be low. So the government might use that technique so that the zigs are not going to be out of supply. Right, so 1 and 2 are correct. Let us look at the third question, the third choice there. A change in the pattern of consumer demand. Yes, if the government sees that a particular commodity is quickly running out of supply, the government might as well impose some taxation on its consumption. Okay, so that they reduce the intake of a particular product. Sometimes they increase the taxation to reduce the demand of the product, or they reduce the taxation in order for people to, vie for the product. So either way, the government can play with the taxation. So which one do you think is our answer? Obviously, uh, 1, 2, and 3 are our answers. So as shown on the screen, the answer is the top choice there. Objectives 1, 2, and 3. Now let's move on to question 14. Sorry, I can proceed. Let me just try to log in. Right, okay, or just to edit the form. What's going on here? This was a preview. Okay, what's going on? Okay, let me try to go to question number 14. All right, that's question number 14 for us, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a bit long question, but we need to understand what it is demanding. Okay, we just have to be comfortable with the explanations we need to give, because this is a very, very rich examination ground on employment, unemployment. So we need to be very careful. So I'll take a step-by-step approach as I'll be explaining. Okay, XYZ Limited operates an IT business. Recent developments in the IT industry mean that XYZ Limited can use computers to replace some of its workers who will be made redundant. At the same time, XYZ Limited will be bringing in policies to limit environmental damage as a result of its actions. What category of unemployment is the redundancy? We're given 4 choices: frictional unemployment, seasonal unemployment, technological unemployment, and structural unemployment. So which one do you think should be our answer? Let me read the circumstances once again. XYZ Limited operates an IT business. Recent developments in the IT industry mean that XYZ Limited can use computers to replace some of its workers who will be made redundant. At the same time, XYZ Limited will be bringing in policies to limit environmental damage as a result of its actions. Now, we need to ask ourselves, what category of unemployment is the redundancy? Okay, so let's deliberate on what these unemployment types refer to. Excuse me. Let's start with frictional unemployment. This refers to the temporary unemployment of people as they move from one job to another. There will always be some frictional unemployment, and it's not terribly important socially because it is temporary. But if we look at the circumstances which have been described by the question, you can see that frictional unemployment is not an issue here. Here, the redundant is actually permanent. It's not temporary. It's permanent. So, frictional unemployment is technically or automatically ruled out. Then there is seasonal unemployment. Seasonal unemployment is usually obvious. It will refer to unemployment patterns in sectors such as building and agriculture, where there tends to be high unemployment during the winter. So you can see that seasonal is usually also temporary. Okay, all right. It's not that permanent. All right, because after a certain phase, the employment will then come back again, and people start to earn money. So this is not consistent with the scenario given in the question. The question is talking about a certain event or happening that has come into the economy and people have been made redundant permanently. So obviously, seasonal unemployment is not the answer. Now let's move to technological unemployment. Technological unemployment speaks for itself. It is unemployment brought about by changes in technology, so the old skills and jobs disappear. So, as you can see from the scenario, we can see that this is an aspect of technological unemployment. Let me read the scenario once again. XYZ Limited operates an IT business. Recent developments in the IT industry mean that XYZ Limited can use computers to replace some of its workers, excuse me, who will be made redundant. So there is a certain change in the industry that requires the use of certain technologies, certain computers, and this means that the workers are going to be made redundant permanently. So this type of unemployment is actually technological unemployment. Okay, the the unemployment here has been specifically said to be related to technological changes or demands. So this one is unemployment which is technological, right? So it has been brought about by changes in technology. It has been brought about by changes in technology. All right, but it is most confusing with structural unemployment. A lot of students put their answers as structural. Why? Because uh, the definition of structural unemployment is a bit more confusing. Now, structural unemployment is more permanent. It occurs where the structure of the industry has changed. An example of structural unemployment can be seen in the UK, where we have closed most of our coal mines. It was thought to be cheaper to import coal uh, from abroad. Now, the difference here is that in structural unemployment, we are looking at the way we do business, all right? Not specifically technology wise, but you know, this might be a change in the social attitude towards something, okay? Um, for example, if companies feel that manufacturing clothes using cotton is no longer socially viable, they, you know, they might decide not to buy cotton anymore for their production of clothes. So that's a structural change. It's not really linked to technology, but sometimes the aspect of social test, the aspect of business test, sometimes it's no longer economic to continue producing clothes using cotton as the raw material. So the answer to our question here is actually technological. Okay, the answer was technological unemployment. All right, please revisit your notes for more clarity on this subject area. And I'm glad for those who obtained 50% and above in the assignment, they are free to start new work tomorrow. That is on week number 3. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, may we continue to feel excited. I mean, very, very excited. I am signing out. Thank you.